Tonight, breaking news in New York City. Federal agents sweeping in. The images coming in now late today. Federal agents, including ICE, launching a crackdown in New York City, sweeping through Canal Street in Lower Manhattan. Chaos erupting, traffic coming to a halt. Multiple people detained tonight. We'll take you live to Lower Manhattan. Also tonight, sources tell ABC News President Trump is now pushing the Justice Department to pay him $230 million in taxpayer money for past investigations involving Trump. The U.S. taxpayers would foot the bill. The government shut down tonight, day 21, no signs of compromise. Millions of Americans now affected, real worries for many about putting food on the table. Meantime, at the White House, President Trump hosting Republican senators, calling the sound of demolition at the White House for the president's new $250 million ballroom music to his ears. The emergency landing the passenger plane, the pilots concerned over pounding on the cockpit door mid-flight on the way to Los Angeles. Tonight, a tropical storm is now formed in the Caribbean, where it's headed and when this is expected to become a hurricane. Ginger Z is tracking this. Tonight, ABC News, the first, taking you inside the Louvre in Paris. You'll see the gallery and the window where those thieves dressed as construction workers broke in, stealing jewels worth $102 million in under 4 minutes. James Longman takes us in tonight. This evening, the January 6th rioter pardoned by President Trump, now back under arrest tonight, accused of threatening to kill Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. There is news tonight about longtime Today host Brian Gumbel, rushed to the hospital in New York City. And the stunning images tonight from across the country, the fall foliage, and when it reaches peak.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We do begin tonight here with the breaking news, the chaotic scene unfolding here in New York City. Federal authorities, including ICE agents, conducting a crackdown late today, sweeping through the well-known area of Canal Street in Lower Manhattan. The chaos erupting, traffic halted. Multiple people have been detained at this hour. The raid part of an operation targeting illegal street vendors. Many are believed to be migrants living in New York City, the area known as a draw for tourists, bargain shoppers, many looking for designer knockoffs. This operation comes amid the increasing federal presence from New York to Chicago to Los Angeles. And it comes just hours after 2 people were shot during an operation in Los Angeles, including a U.S. Marshal. So what led to that incident? But first, the scene in New York City late today, and ABC's Matt Rivers leads us off from Lower Manhattan tonight.
Tonight, an immigration crackdown in New York City as federal agents descended on Canal Street, famous for its bargain shopping and knockoff designer goods and parts of Chinatown. The raid, part of an operation targeting illegal street vending. The scene turning chaotic as agents made arrests and pushed back the crowd.
And it's gotten a little hairy at points, with people running, people falling down in the street, and federal agents running after them.
The traffic coming to a standstill at the start of rush hour, with cars trapped between law enforcement officers.
The people selling those knockoff goods are often migrants, which means that federal investigations here often include a component of immigration enforcement.
It comes amid heavy federal presence in cities across the country, from New York to Chicago to Los Angeles, where today Homeland Security officials say a U.S. Marshal and a suspected undocumented immigrant with a criminal record were both shot and wounded during a targeted traffic stop.
This is 20th and Trinity. Looks like they wedged the vehicle. Shots were fired. We see the windows were blown out.
DHS officials say agents used a standard pit maneuver to detain the suspect who had escaped custody in the past. They say this time, when the man rammed a federal vehicle trying to evade arrest, officers opened fire, hitting him in the elbow. A bullet ricocheting into the hand of the U.S. Marshal. Both men were hospitalized. Our Matt Gutman right there on the scene.
I just want to give you a sense of where we are. Just down the street, that black vehicle, that's an FBI vehicle. Beyond it is where the incident happened. But right here, that's a church. And on the other side of these LAPD vehicles, right across the street, that's a school.
The suspect, a TikToker known as Richard LA18, is an influencer known for capturing video of these ICE operations in LA, even recognized by the city of LA for his contributions to the community. Last week, this dramatic Border Patrol chase of a suspect through a Chicago neighborhood ended with a pit maneuver, the operation sparking anti-ICE clashes between protesters and federal agents. A federal judge in Chicago, concerned about aggressive tactics, restricting the use of tear gas and ordering agents to wear body cameras.
And David, back here on Canal Street, those street vendors who would usually be out here selling their goods largely clearing out tonight as a result of that raid. The mayor's office saying no city officials were involved in the operation. David?
Matt Rivers leading us off here tonight. Matt, thank you. Tonight, sources tell ABC News that President Trump is now pushing the Justice Department to pay him $230 million in taxpayer money for past investigations involving Trump, including the Russia election interference investigation and the classified documents case involving what was found at Mar-a-Lago. The U.S. taxpayers would foot the bill here, and here's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, sources tell ABC News President Trump is pushing for the government to give him $230 million, a wholly unprecedented personal payout from the American taxpayers as compensation for the federal investigations he's faced. The president says the Justice Department owes him.
I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Probably, yeah, that's true. That's very interesting.
President Trump filed claims against the Justice Department in 2023 and again last year. One about the investigation into his campaign and Russian meddling in the 2016 election. The other concerning the FBI search of his Mar-a-Lago home, where agents removed boxes of classified documents Trump had taken from the White House and kept in a storage area, a ballroom, and even a bathroom. The president calling himself a victim of malicious prosecution, claiming his privacy rights were violated. If the settlement goes through, he would personally collect nearly $250 million from American taxpayers.
If I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House where we restore the White House. And we're doing a great job in the White House.
The Justice Department officials who would likely have to sign off on the settlement were once President Trump's own personal lawyers. Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche. They recently stood with the president in the Oval Office as he acknowledged the extraordinary situation.
They raided my house in Florida. It was an illegal raid. I have a lawsuit that was doing very well. And when I became president, I said, I'm sort of suing myself. I don't know. How do you settle the lawsuit? I'll say, give me X dollars, right? And I don't know what to do with the lawsuit. It's a great lawsuit. And now I won. It sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself, right?
And again, David, this is an unprecedented situation that would likely require the DOJ officials who once served as the president's own personal attorneys to sign off on that $230 million payment to the president. Tonight, the Justice Department tells us they will follow the advice and guidance of career ethics officials. David.
Rachel Scott live at the White House. Rachel, thanks. Now to the government shutdown, day 21, no signs of compromise. Millions of Americans, of course, affected, and now mounting worries over paying the bills and, for many, putting food on the table. At the White House today, President Trump hosting Republican senators. The president calling the sound of demolition at the White House for the president's new $250 million ballroom music to his ears. Mary Bruce at the White House tonight.
Tonight, on day 21 of the government shutdown, the president inviting Senate Republican leaders to lunch in the Rose Garden, telling them all about the construction underway for his new $250 million ballroom in what is often called the People's House. The president once said the project wouldn't interfere with the current structure of the White House, but cameras caught bulldozers razing parts of the East Wing.
You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh. That's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money.
As the shutdown drags on, Democrats digging in on their demand that Republicans repeal Medicaid cuts and extend health care subsidies that will soon expire, causing insurance premiums to rise for millions of Americans.
Republicans may not have time to fix people's health care, but apparently they got plenty of time for a mini pep rally with Donald Trump.
Today, I asked Senate Republican leader John Thune, why not just talk?
Do you owe it to the American people to at least be negotiating?
Well, I think we are. We have negotiated. I don't know what there is to negotiate.
But thousands of miles away from the Rose Garden in Decatur, Georgia, Juan Sorrow, a disabled Navy veteran, worries if this shutdown drags on, he won't be able to feed his family.
It is literally the difference between eating and not eating on any given day.
Like 42 million other Americans, he relies on SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is set to run out of money in a little over a week.
This isn't a game. This is real lives. You know, little children are being affected. You know, veterans are being affected, and people that we've served our country faithfully, and now it's time for the government to help us and to serve us.
Now, President Trump says he won't meet with Democrats until they first reopen the government. And at 21 days, this shutdown now tied for the second longest ever. The longest ever, 35 days during President Trump's first term. David.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Tonight, a midair scare on board a flight from Omaha to Los Angeles. The passenger plane making an emergency landing. The pilots were alarmed by the pounding on the cockpit door during the flight. So what was behind it all? Here's Gio Benitez tonight.
Tonight, this SkyWest flight making an emergency landing after the pilot lost contact with the flight crew on the other side of the locked cockpit and heard banging on the cockpit door. Concerned something terrible could be playing out in the cabin. Authorities now say that banging was the flight crew trying to get the pilot's attention. The plane headed from Omaha, Nebraska to Los Angeles last night when SkyWest says it experienced communication issues and returned out of an abundance of caution. This passenger video capturing the pilot's announcement after landing.
We weren't sure if something was going on with the airplane, so that's why we're coming back here. It's going to be a little bit, we're going to have to figure out what's going on.
The FAA telling us it was determined there was a problem with the interphone system. And David, SkyWest apologized to those passengers for the inconvenience. That flight did end up making it to Los Angeles. David.
All right, Gio Benitez tonight. Gio, thank you. This evening, we're tracking newly formed tropical storm Melissa in the Caribbean. So where is it headed, and when is this expected to become a hurricane? Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z back with us tonight. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, David. So Melissa's looking quite unhealthy down in the Caribbean, about 300 miles south of Port-au-Prince. It's very asymmetric at this moment, so it's going to need to get its life together before it can start making its way to the north and eventually to the east. But here's what it looks like. That's the cone, but not a cone at all, more like a blob of a forecast, because there's not a high confidence in exactly where it goes. It's going to stall out and be very slow to move. That's why we've got Jamaica and the west side of Haiti on alert for hurricane. I think 5 to 10 inches of rain and that flash flood threat is our main impact in the coming days through the weekend. And so that's what we'll be watching. But as it tracks to the north, what it's fighting is wind shear. That's one of the big things. It's represented by that red color here. It's just really high winds in the upper atmosphere that kind of cuts down at the tops of hurricanes. One thing it does have is a lot of fuel, 4 to 5 degrees above average. And just to leave you with those spaghetti plots, a majority of them still take it eventually north and east. Why the lower 48 doesn't get hit is partly because of that front, David.
All right, let's hope the wind shear does its work. Ginger, thank you. Tonight, ABC News, the first TV network to take you inside the famous Louvre in Paris to see the gallery and the window where those thieves dressed as construction workers broke in, stealing jewels worth $102 million in broad daylight. And they did it in 3 minutes, 50 seconds. James Longman gaining access to the Louvre tonight.
The gang who pulled off what's being called the crime of the century is still on the run tonight, evading capture now for almost 3 days since that stunning heist at the Louvre. The prosecutor's office puts the value of their haul at about $102 million. But with every hour that passes, the chances grow that these priceless jewels have left France, maybe for good. Tonight, we were given exclusive access to the museum while still on lockdown, the first news team inside since the robbery.
Right outside the Apollo Gallery, and I can see right through into the main area. It's a huge vaulted gallery, incredible gilded ceilings. They came in through the window at the far end.
The gallery doors barred and sealed. This palace of French history now a crime scene. Sunday's robbery was the 4th in France in just 2 months, reigniting a serious debate over security at museums.
Madame la Ministre, James.
The culture minister we met yesterday defending her position in the French parliament today, insisting there were no security failures in the wing that sits hundreds of yards from the Mona Lisa. But an audit report seen by ABC says a stunning 75% of one wing is without CCTV surveillance, another 60%.
And David, the president of the Louvre will tomorrow face questions at a special Senate committee hearing as recriminations here grow over this apparent major lapse in security. David?
James Longman again tonight. Thank you, James. Tonight, the White House revealing the second summit with Vladimir Putin won't happen anytime soon. Just last week, President Trump announced they would meet again in Hungary after already meeting in Alaska to again discuss ending Russia's war in Ukraine. But tonight, the Kremlin saying, quote, "You can't postpone what was not scheduled." This comes after President Zelensky visited the White House last week, requesting U.S. Tomahawk missiles, going home empty-handed. President Trump had talked with Vladimir Putin the day before Zelensky's visit. The president then turned down Zelensky's request. We move on tonight to the January 6th rioter, pardoned by President Trump, who authorities say was among the first to breach the Capitol. Tonight, he's now back under arrest, accused of threatening to kill Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Here's our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky now.
Tonight, a January 6th rioter pardoned by President Trump is under arrest again, now charged with making a terroristic threat to kill House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. This is Christopher Moynihan on January 6th. Federal prosecutors pointing to these images in court papers, saying he was among the first to breach the Capitol and desecrate the Senate chamber, rifling through papers while muttering, "There's got to be something in here we can expletive use against these scumbags." Now the FBI and New York State Police say Moynihan sent these chilling texts. Hakeem Jeffries makes a speech in a few days in NYC. "I cannot allow this terrorist to live," one message said. "Even if I am hated, he must be eliminated. I will kill him for the future." Tonight, Jeffries posting his gratitude to police and writing, "Unfortunately, our brave men and women in law enforcement are being forced to spend their time keeping our community safe from these violent individuals who should never have been pardoned." Moynihan is due in court later this week, David. There he is again at the Capitol January 6th. President Trump pardoned him and all the rioters from that day on his first day in office. And this is the first time one of them has been charged with threatening to carry out another act of political violence. David?
Aaron Katersky with us here tonight. Aaron, thank you. When we come back, the news coming in involving longtime Today Show host Brian Gumbel. Gumbel reportedly rushed to the hospital after a medical emergency, what we've learned tonight. Also, the American chess grandmaster who has died tonight at the age of 29. What we've learned here in a moment. Tonight, longtime Today Show host Brian Gumbel has reportedly been hospitalized after suffering a medical emergency here in New York. TMZ reporting the 77-year-old was rushed to the hospital by ambulance last night. A family member telling TMZ tonight that Gumbel is okay. His older brother, sportscaster Greg Gumbel, died last year at the age of 78. We wish Brian well. Tonight, the measles outbreak in South Carolina is growing up to 20 cases, 4 more infections in that state since last week. Most of the cases have been traced to 2 different schools now. One of those schools has a measles vaccination rate of just 17%. Officials say unvaccinated students were asked to quarantine. When we come back here tonight, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy went to prison today. The images here in a moment. Also, the American chess grandmaster we've learned has died tonight at the age of 29, what we've learned. And you've got to see these stunning images tonight across America, the fall foliage, in just a moment here. To the index of other news tonight, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy reporting to prison. Sarkozy spotted leaving his home in Paris earlier today, hand in hand with his wife, model and singer Carla Bruni. Sarkozy now begins serving a 5-year sentence for corruption. His lawyers filing a request for his release while he appeals his conviction. Tonight, back here in the U.S., a passing to note, American chess grandmaster and former child prodigy Daniel Naroditsky has died. One of the most influential American voices in the sport, he earned the highest title in international chess back in 2013 while still in high school. His family announcing his death with, quote, great sadness and saying his passing was unexpected. No word on a cause. He was just 29 years old. When we come back in the broadcast tonight, you have to see this, the most beautiful images coming in from across the country tonight where fall foliage is near peak. In a moment here. Finally tonight here, America Strong, the fall foliage never disappoints.
Tonight, the stunning color from coast to coast in this country, leaves changing, peak fall foliage for so many happening now. From the snowy mountains in California to the rivers in Michigan, from the drive through this Washington state suburb to Colorado's Gunnison National Forest, the fallen leaves filling the paths, families stopping to take photos. In New Hampshire at sunrise, this drone capturing the fall foliage glowing in the early morning light across the White Mountains in the northern part of the state. In Tennessee, Eric Waldorf sharing this scenic drive on a stretch of U.S. Route 421 in Tennessee's northeast corner. In southern Maine, Ken Chang taking his jet ski for a drive on Kabasakani Lake in Kennebec County, seeing the changing leaves on both sides of him. And in Freeport, Maine tonight, the Hartman family and their tradition, 10 years and going, raking up the leaves for their dogs to jump into. The 2 labs, Stella and Mabel, running through the house, down the stairs, and into the giant pile of leaves. Disappearing, waiting patiently until they're given the okay, jumping in. Afterward, you could spot them right there, their heads peeking through. And right here tonight,
hey, David.
Dad with Stella and Mabel. Still in the leaves.
In case you didn't notice, fall is our favorite season. We're finding happiness in the little things in life, keeping it simple, you know. So, hope all is well. Sending love from Freeport.